For over 80 years, MTA's numbered lines weren't just transit. They were time capsules. From the wooden cars of the 40s to the steel titans of the 2000s. The MTA showcased the spirit of its era, but now something's shifting, quietly. The numbered lines from the 1 to the 6, get this, are being abandoned. The R142 and 42A were once the crown jewels of the new technology train era. Introduced in 1999 and 2000, they brought automated announcements, smoother rides, and a futuristic feel to the 2, 4, and 5 lines. But that future is now the past. Nearly 30 years old, these trains are aging out of relevance. They're the only major fleets and NTT lines without CBTC. Instead, they rely on strip-line logic, alongside with the faulty signal system. Still, a legacy system that confuses riders, especially in the 2 and 5, where identical trains run different routes. Now, you might say these are little concerns and they still run fine. But when train cars start disconnecting mid-service, that's a warning. Documented cases of R142s physically separating during operation, riders stranded, delays mounting, and no clear prediction of when MTA is going to start caring for these cars. The MTA has begun retrofitting some R142As into R188s, but only for the 7 line. The rest left behind. This proves that MTA has the capability to shift the R142 and R142As into CBTC, but they refuse to do so. MTA's modernization plan is clear. CBTC is the future, but the numbered lines, once the backbone of the system, are being left out of it. R188s on the 7 are CBTC ready. R211s are rolling out with lettered lines with full CBTC integration. But the 1 through 6, no roadmap, retrofit, or transparency. The MTA isn't retiring trains, but it's retiring trust. The numbered lines built the city, but without a plan or transparency, or without CBTC, they are being erased, one car at a time. While the B division boasts a diverse arsenal of rolling stock from the R46 to the R211, the A division, known as the IRT, is locked into a narrow corridor of aging tech. The IRT operates with just 4 fleet models. These 4 fleets must serve 6 entire lines from the 1 to the 6. I'll explain why I'm not bringing up the 7 train and the R188s later. This imbalance creates a fragile system. One maintenance check on a 2 can force the line to borrow from the 3, disrupting service and confusing riders. And let's not forget, the 2 and 5 share the same fleet, with no backup alternative, with just a single point of failure. The R142 and 142As are approaching 30 years of service, but unlike their B division cousins, they've never received a full overhaul. No major refurbishments, no CBTC integration, no upgraded strip maps, just the same legacy displays that confuse riders and obscure next stops. Ever since 2000, other tech models, excluding the R143, do not face these issues. Their strip maps are clearer, their systems are smarter, and their futures are more planned out. You might ask, what about the R188s? Yes, they are IRT and CBTC ready, but they're exclusive to the 7. A single exception does not fix a systemic neglect. The R188s are retrofitted R142As, but only a fraction of the fleet. They don't serve the core numbered lines. Their existence proves the MTA can modernize, but chooses not to. The 1 and 6 may run the R62As, but don't be fooled. These fleets are isolated. No sharing, no backup, or flexibility. The 1 and 6 relies solely on the R62A. No cross-line fleet sharing. No alternative models in case of emergency or maintenance. And that's the pattern. Every IRT line runs just one fleet, except the 4. one model per line, and 1 point of failure. Now let's look at the B division. Every single line has at least 2 fleets. Some have 3, some have 4. The A and C, R179 and R211s. The B and D, R68, R68As, and R211s. The E, the R160, R160B, and R179. Same for the F. The G, R160s, R160Bs, and R211s. The L, R143s, and R160s. The J and Z, R143s, R160s, and R179s. The M, R160s, and R179s. The N, Q, and W, R46, R68, and the R160 Siemens. The R, R160, R160 Siemens, and the R179s. Even the L train running solo has 2 fleets. So what's my point? The B division is a fortress. The A division is a tightrope. With only 1 fleet on 80% of its lines, the IRT is vulnerable. 1 breakdown from a car, 1 delay, and the whole line suffers. It's no redundancy, flexibility, or plans for extension. Durability isn't just about tech. It's about options. And right now the IRT has none in case of emergencies. Now let's talk about the swap that severed the spine. The 6-7 swap. That meme was inevitable, and everybody knows it. The Flushing Line, New York 7 train, was chosen to lead the charge into the CBTC era, but in doing so, the MTA made a decision that fractured the IRT's backbone. To modernize the 7, MTA needed trains that could handle communications-based train control. The solution? Strip the 6th line of its R142As. Sleek, versatile, and compatible with every IRT line, and convert them into R188s. But that conversion came with a cost. The R188 wasn't just an upgrade. It was a transformation, one that severed it from the rest of the system. Unlike every other IRT train, the R188 was rebuilt to run 11 cars, not 10. Why? Because the Flushing Line, once part of the BMT, has longer platforms, like those on the Jamaica or Canarsie lines. This means the R188 is physically incompatible with the rest of the IRT. A fleet that once unified the numbered lines was reforged into a 1-line exile. The 7 gained CBTC but lost its IRT soul. To be fair, the R62s were built with single coupling systems, meaning that they could pair as many cars as they possibly needed. But the R188s are programmed to run with 11 cars. Their removal forces 6 to rely on R62As. Older, already bruised, clunkier, and less efficient. Maintenance crews trained on R142As had to relearn older tech. Operators lost familiarity and the system lost rhythm. The swap didn't just move trains, it disrupted an entire ecosystem. Before the swap, the R142As could run anywhere on IRT's property. They were IRT's most flexible asset. But now, most of them are locked into a single line for a single purpose. The IRT lost a fleet that could have supported the 2, 4, 5, or 6 in times of crisis. Instead, that fleet was transformed into something incompatible with the rest of the system. And now we have to wait possibly 10 years for the R262 to bring a new upgrade to the mainstream IRT. A decision made from one line weakened the entire division. This wasn't just a trade but a transformation, and the IRT is still paying the price. And because of this swap, the short-term fix disguised as progress, we now face a decade-long delay. The IRT must wait nearly 10 more years for the R262s to arrive and fill the void left by aging fleets. In the meantime, the MTA is forced to retrofit the R142s for CBTC compatibility, an expensive reactive move that could have been avoided if the system had been unified from the start. Now let's talk about something more different. the timeline collapsed. The R62 and 142 were released 15 years apart. That's a healthy cycle, predictable and sustainable. But now that rhythm is broken. The R262s meant to replace the R62s aren't meant to be expected after 2035. That's a 35-year gap between fleet generations. No new IRT fleet for nearly 4 decades. That's not just delay, it's dysfunction. In contrast, the B division has a much more stable release date, with an average date of 9.6 years. And ever since 2000, the B division kept pushing cars, but the A division did not. And here's the paradox. By the time the R262s arrive, we won't just be replacing the R62s. We'll be sketching the successor to the R142s, the R300s, the R310s. Who knows? Who knows? The R142s will nearly be 40 years old by the time the R262s roll out. The R62s, already older, might be out of service. The replacement cycle is so delayed, it's overlapping itself. We're not just behind schedule, we're rewriting the schedule. And IRT is losing its future before it even arrives. The Lexington Avenue line is the busiest subway corridor in America, serving over 2 million riders a day, and it's running over trains that haven't seen a new model in over 25 years. The R62s, introduced in 1984, are now the oldest active subway cars in the system, followed closely by the R68s, 1986, and then the R142s. And yet, there's no CBTC, no new cars, no overhaul, just silence. The R142s and 142As deserve more than slow decay. They deserve a second life. They should be treated similar to how MTA is treating the R188, yet they fail to do so. But the MTA has acknowledged this, issuing an RFI in 2023 to explore retrofitting with the R142 and 142A fleets with CBTC. But that's still in the planning phase with no contracts, timelines, or urgency. Meanwhile, the R62s and the 6, a local workhorse on the city's most vital artery, remain untouched by modernization. If an R62 breaks down in the tunnel of Spring Street, or if an R142 disconnects mid-run past 33rd Street, there's no substitute fleets except the R142As. It's managerial. At first glance, the R142s don't seem old. They aren't just the oldest NTT train fleets. But put the R46 retirement into consideration, they're now the 3rd oldest fleet in the system, and while breakdowns are rare, when they happen, they reveal the strain of age. The MTA's failure to act isn't just a delay, it's a denial of reality. The IRT isn't just running out of time, it's running out of excuses. The numbered lines are being left behind, and the face of the IRT is still 30-year-old still. Once the R262s are in service, they should take over half of the R142 fleet, easing the burden on the aging system. The R142s that are cycled out, send them in for a full overhaul, CBTC integration, updated strip maps that reflect actual service patterns, and modern LED signage. As you can see, what I'm doing is cutting the map in pieces. Reading the entire strip map without formats can be overwhelming for a newcomer. Unlike the R160 strip maps, you will be able to see when you are crossing the borough. Like the R160s and the R211s have, a graph of the further stations will be shown. I left out Utica Avenue for a reason, because that's where my new feature comes into play. This new concept provides a graph of the stations that you've missed, and they will be highlighted as red, meaning you will have to go to the opposite direction in order to travel to that station. The Stations Pass feature will allow you to focus on what line you're on instead of being sidetracked by neighboring lines that can seem overwhelming for a new rider. This phased approach gives the IRT breathing room. While the R142s are reborn, the R262s hold the line. Once the R142s are fully CBTC compatible, then the MTA can shift focus to the R162s, the true outliers with no CBTC future. This strategy avoids a system shock and builds a layered resilient fleet that evolves without collapsing. In a city as chaotic and unforgiving as New York, riders need to know where they're going, not wandering back through a packed station, dodging elbows and muttering apologies from a stranger who bumped into a group of blind people so fast they're convinced a wizard snatched their sandwiches via gyromancy. And now you're just standing there watching sandwiches get claimed by a rat named Ezekiel who's been clearly waiting for this moment his entire life. And then, just when you think it can't get weirder, you spot a man in the corner with a dark cloak covering his face with purple glowing symbols, whispering incantations in a language that hasn't been spoken since the Bronze Age. They're doing full-blown subway sorcery. Ezekiel the rat starts vibrating with joy, eyes glowing, sandwich crumbs levitating. But before the ritual completes, boom! A rogue R62 3-train barrels through the station at what feels like 65 miles per hour, flattening Ezekiel, the sandwich, and any hope of closure. The spell breaks, the sorcerer vanishes, and you're left with nothing but the smell of burnt brakes and betrayal. Note that this all happened because you thought the 5 stops at Penn Station, and instead, you were dragged into a prophecy of rats and Haitian witchcraft. Now, what does this have to do with the video? Absolutely nothing. Just like how the 2 and 5 have nothing to do with each other in Manhattan. MTA needs to do better with the R142s, because if we don't move fast enough, we're going to have to worry about the R300s in 2030. I have a lot of more points I'd bring up in this video, but this would make the video 30 minutes. If you guys want a part 2 on this, like, comment, and subscribe. I want your thoughts and opinions on what I've brewed up so far.